Bienvenidos, mis queridos amigos y audiencia consecuente de este programa Alta Fidelidad. Hoy es un día muy especial en este programa porque vamos a tener una invitada, de altísimo nivel, de lujo, y que está llevando el nombre de Canadá y el legado musical de Canadá a todas partes del mundo, continuando con ese legado. Estoy muy contento porque, ya les voy a anunciar de quién estoy hablando. Y yo hablé de esta persona hace 2 semanas cuando tuve el gusto de conocerla, porque se hizo la presentación del el nuevo lanzamiento discográfico de quien en vida fuese su esposo. Y estoy hablando nada más y nada menos del increíble pianista, uno de los mejores pianistas de jazz del mundo, que es Oscar Peterson, canadiense, oriundo de Montreal. Y para mí es un gran orgullo que yo hoy en este show voy a entrevistar a su esposa Kelly Peterson, quien, como les comenté, ella maneja el estate de Oscar, y ella se está encargando, ella hace todo el trabajo necesario para que el legado de Oscar Peterson continúe llegando a las masas, a todas partes del mundo, porque como les comento y ustedes lo saben, ya lo hemos hablado antes en este programa, Oscar Peterson es uno de los pianistas más importantes del mundo, salido de este gran país, con fanáticos en todas partes del mundo. Y el lanzamiento del que vamos a hablar, y vamos a hablar del legado de Oscar Peterson y de otras actividades que se están llevando a cabo con respecto a su legado musical, van a ser mejor explicadas a nosotros por su esposa Kelly. Y también, por supuesto, hoy vamos a hacer un switch de entrevistas. Hoy vamos a switchar esta entrevista, vamos a hacerla completamente en inglés, uno de los idiomas oficiales de este gran país, para poder entrevistar a Kelly y hablar de todo lo que se está haciendo del legado del señor Oscar Peterson. Así que estoy muy emocionado por esto. Y como dice en inglés, without further ado, I am super happy to welcome Kelly Peterson on Alta Fidelidad. And we're going to see her right now. Thank you. Here you go. There's Kelly Peterson. I'm so happy to have you on my show, Alta Fidelidad. Kelly, you have no idea. Since the very first time that I met you, I told you that I was very excited because when I was a kid in Venezuela, thanks to my mom and my dad, especially my dad, who was also a musician, producer, attorney, and a manager for artists. And I grew up, one of the artists whose music I grew up to was Oscar Peterson's music. So I know my dad, that he's looking, from heaven. He must be super excited that now I have the opportunity to talk to you, the wife of Oscar Peterson. So thank you so much. This is a great honor. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Jose. Maybe your dad is sitting with Oscar.
Yes.
Maybe they're listening together.
Of course, that would not surprise me at all, because musicians, they get together.
Yes, they do. So
how are you doing today? Because we have a great thing coming on. I just told my audience, of course, that we are going to talk about this great release that is coming this Friday. But obviously, we're going to touch on that. But first, how are you doing today? How's life? I know it's busy because it's promotion week.
Yes, it's busy, but it's a joyful time. It's always exciting to have the music coming out. I'm always happy to be sharing more of Oscar with people. And especially with this one, because it's such a special package that we've put together. So I'm really excited, kind of counting the sleeps, as we say, and having a hard time sleeping because I'm so excited for Friday.
Course. It's that adrenaline rush prior to a release or to a show, or in this case, you're doing this tour, media tour with everybody talking about, Oscar's legacy, which without a doubt, he's one of the best jazz pianists in the whole history of recorded music, without a doubt. I'm very, as a Venezuelan Canadian, I'm so proud of these type of legacies that we have in this beautiful country that we are so lucky to live, in. And could you please tell us a little bit? And I told my audience, because when I first met you, I talk about that experience in previous shows, and I explain of this recording that is coming, that is called World Tour, because these are recordings that took place in different parts of the world with some of the best musicians of the time, which it was the orchestra that was traveling with Oscar. And but tell us a little bit more about this release.
So this release is called World Tour, which is what I wanted to, for Oscar's 100th birthday, I wanted to do a release called World Tour, because that was his logo and he traveled all over the world, and I thought it made sense to find live concert recordings from different parts of the world and with different musicians. So we start, there's a solo piano concert in Detroit, Michigan, which was from 1980. And then we go south to Sao Paulo, Brazil from 1996 with the quartet. Then we head over to Europe to 1969 with a trio in Basel, Switzerland, and with a special guest of Butch Watanabe on trombone. Butch was a trombonist from Montreal and a dear friend of Oscar's, and he accompanied him on that particular tour. And from there we go to 1972 to New Zealand, and then we come back to Toronto in 1980. So it's all around the world, and a lot of different music and a lot of fun, I think. So I'm hoping people get a sense of what it was like to be on the road and to travel and go to all these different places.
It's incredible, because I told my audience before that I was so lucky that we could have this listening party with you that was at Cobb's Record here in Toronto, and listen with that great system and those great speakers, and we could really appreciate the work that was put in there, like the process of the sound, the mastering, the quality of the recordings. This is such a work, a labor of love. And could you tell us a little bit in a few minutes how hard was to gather all of those recordings, all that music, choosing the music that was going to be in this release?
How hard? Well, it's always a challenge to go through the archives of what we have recorded and then choose and decide, because I love it all. so it's hard to make the decisions. But because we had the theme and I wanted to showcase these different parts of the world and different groups, it was a little bit easier. And then deciding which recordings to use came together fairly easily, because they made sense and kind of fun to think about that kind of a tour. The part that took a really long time and that was a lot harder to sort of narrow down was creating the book, the 40-page hardcover book that comes with the LP set, because we had so many things to include, as we wanted to share some of Oscar away from the stage to give people an idea of who the man was who created all this beautiful music. What were the things that he liked to do when he wasn't performing? Who was he? What was his life like? What was our family life like? And so going through all of those things was, of course, very emotional, for one thing, to relive all the memories, but also deciding what to include and what we didn't have room for, because there's so much after his long life that he lived so fully and with so much passion and with so much interest in so many things. So that was a bit harder, but worth every minute.
So that means that there's still a lot of material that has not been released.
Oh yes, there are more recordings that have not been released yet. and that will
do,
hopefully eventually get released, a little bit at a time.
Wow, that's a great revelation in this show. That's going to be appreciated by Oscar Peterson's fans. And wow, that is just incredible. And there's another thing for people who might not know this, but there's excerpts from poetry written by Oscar Peterson. For maybe some people, they don't know that he loved poetry. His love for poetry was big, and he also wrote poetry.
That's right. I don't think very many people will know that, because it wasn't something that he spoke about. It wasn't something that he shared publicly ever. But that's one of the aspects of Oscar's private life that we wanted to share. And our daughter Celine and I talked about it, and talked about sharing his photos, the photos that he took, because he had a great passion for photography all his life. It was one of his great hobbies. And also the poems that he wrote, and excerpts from the memoir that he wrote. So for people to read what was inside Oscar Peterson's mind is a different way to learn about him than hearing the music that comes from his heart and soul and mind.
So you would say that speaks to the joy, generosity, and humanity behind his extraordinary musicianship.
Yes, definitely. I would say that for sure.
Kelly, why do you think that his music continues to resonate with young artists and listeners all over the world today?
I think because it's so honest. It comes from his heart. It comes with joy. It's every song he played, every song he composed, no matter the tempo, even if it's a very sad, somber ballad, there was joy. And I think it's that joy and the exuberance, and it's that inspires people. His great technique. I mean, the vast talent that he had that encompassed the technique, as well as the compositions that he wrote, and his solos on things that were all just so exciting and exhilarating. And I think that good music that's honest, that comes from your heart, doesn't go away, and people are inspired to listen, and people hear new things each time they listen, and we still play Mozart, we still play Liszt, Beethoven, Brahms. People will continue to listen to their music for generations, as they will continue to listen to Duke Ellington. And I believe people will continue to listen to Oscar Peterson.
And I think also, being a musician myself, the beauty, also, as you said, the technique, the dexterity, the excellence in this type of musicians of the caliber of Mr. Oscar Peterson. That's something that is undeniable, especially these days with all those, these things that are happening, AI, this and that. You have a lot of quote unquote artists performing to tracks on stage, which is, in my opinion, as a person who is in this industry 24/7, beyond disgraceful. So I think things that are completely authentic, beautiful, from the heart, real, truth, those things, they never go old, never.
I agree. And I also believe that the audiences who have listened to Oscar for years, and also younger people, there are a lot of people listening to Oscar's music who weren't even born yet when he passed away 19
Correct.
years ago, and some who were too young to have heard his music. So, but what I think what they hear also, and what they know, is that he was dedicated and determined to make every single performance the best it could be. And he always tried actually to make each performance better than the one before. So, and that comes through in the music, his love of it, his enthusiasm, his joy, but also people know if they're going to listen to Oscar Peterson, they're going to hear something that's coming from a man who strove for excellence in everything that he did and always gave 100%.
Yeah, will never go old. So, I mean, those are the greatest musicians ever. All of that gang, like Joe Pass, Oscar Peterson. All, I mean, it's just incredible. I was so excited. I was just reading the material, and thank you so much for sending me the material for the show. And when we were together at Cops Records here in Toronto, and listening of Joe Pass, and I grew up with the music of Joe Pass, and I was so excited. It's like, this is coming all full, like back full circle. That, and I'm so happy that this great music continues to strive to have a very strong presence anywhere in the world, because it deserves it. People, they need to reach for excellence. It's necessary, because that's a concept that to a lot of people, unfortunately, these days is abstract, to say the least. So definitely, I think personally that's one of the main reasons why music like Oscar Peterson's music will never go away. To the contrary, it will stay, and it will get higher and higher. Could you please tell us a little bit about your role as the custodian of Oscar's global legacy?
Yes, that's kind of hard. Basically, as it's a privilege to have this legacy to care for, and I'm doing things that I never would have imagined before. I was not involved in the music business before I met Oscar, and while he was alive, I was not involved in his business at all. He had other people doing everything, but I was with him, and I was with him when he was with Norman Granz. I was with him on the road, was with him all the time, as was our daughter after she was born. We went on tours as a family. So our experience together with him and my experience with Oscar, I suppose I learned a lot, but I still, after he passed away, had no idea what I was going to do or how to manage everything and what would be most important. So it took a little while, but gradually I thought, well, I want people to know more of Oscar as a composer. So I produced a recording of 16 other pianists playing Oscar's music on Oscar's own piano in our home. And I did that independently and released it independently, and then licensed it to Mac Avenue Records. And that's what has started this whole new kind of career, because they asked me if I had any archival recordings that had not been released. And I said, well, yes, a lot. So we started releasing these live concert recordings that have never been released before. And it's bringing me great joy to hear the music, and especially from some times, concerts and times in Oscar's life when I wasn't there. And so it's exciting to put it all together, and then to see people so enthusiastic about it and happy to be listening, and discovering that there are younger people discovering Oscar for the first time, and to witness their enthusiasm. It makes it great fun. I mean, I do feel very much that it is, as I said, a privilege to have this legacy to represent. It's also a tremendous responsibility, because whatever I do, I feel has to be worthy of Oscar and the excellence that he represents. So I always keep that in mind. Jose, I can't hear you right now.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry so much. There was like
Okay.
something here. Sorry about it.
Okay,
And
that's okay.
I wanted to ask you with regards to all of this and his legacy and keeping his music alive and going. Um, I understand that it took like 5 years to gather all of this, to choose, to organize, to create the book, to put it all together. So, did you work? Are you still working with the people who used to work with Oscar when he was alive, or do you have like a brand new team, or it's a mix of a little bit of everything? How is that?
Not working with the people that Oscar worked with when he was alive. No, and putting this book together was really with my colleague Matthew Jurasek from Mac Avenue Music Group, going through boxes, and with our daughter Celine, going through boxes and pictures and determining which of Oscar's photos to share in the book, and going through the poems. It took 5 years from when we started. I mean, we weren't working every day for that 5 years. We were working every day for the last year before it finally went to the printers earlier this year. Um, and maybe even for more than a year. There was very dedicated work, but it was gathering the ideas and trying to decide what we wanted to include because there's so much material. Oscar had so much passion for living, and he lived a very large life. His passion was not only for the music, but for photography, for writing, for fly fishing. Everything that he did in his life, he did with gusto. He went all in 100% for everything. And so it was hard. I had to kind of step back a little bit because I want to share so much, but I also know we had limited number of pages, and also you can't put a whole life into a 48-page book. So
Yeah.
it was a matter of us going through, taking pictures of a lot of the pieces of memorabilia, and then going through those and saying, okay, let's put this in. And then we'd say later, well, no, we better take that out because we want to put this in. And so there was a lot of back and forth. And primarily that was with Matthew and me.
Wow. What a work.
And
So
then
that
Celine,
was a full-time job.
I would send things to Celine and she would say, yes, okay, that's good, Mom. Keep that one in. No, don't put that in, so.
So she would approve. She was, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And I also wanted to touch on something with you that is very relevant to the fact that as we were discussing, you were the custodian of Oscar's global legacy, and you're making sure that his relevance is not lost. Is exactly the opposite, that the name of Oscar Peterson continues to shine everywhere, every day. And there's something that happened that is extremely important for the legacy of Mr. Oscar Peterson, which is a donation of Oscar's personal artifacts to the Smithsonian Museum. Can you please tell us about it? Because that is extremely interesting.
Yes, I'm happy to, because it's thrilling, and I think it's quite significant to have Oscar represented in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. And earlier this year, we gave one of his tuxedo outfits, the tuxedo, the shirt, the tie, the cufflinks, the shoes, the pocket hanky, and the Order of Canada lapel pin to the Smithsonian for the National Museum of American History. And along with that gift, Edward Gaydell, who is just the most brilliant, gifted, talented portrait photographer who happens to be from Toronto, he gave the Smithsonian one of his portraits of Oscar. So they have both. And to have Oscar as a Canadian represented in this museum in the United States, but it's a museum that is world-renowned and important throughout the world for what it represents and for the history that it shares and showcases. It means more than I actually can find the words to say. It was such a significant event for us to be able to give them Oscar's outfit and Oscar's portrait so that we know that he's there in perpetuity.
And how long it took? So the Smithsonian, they actually approached you for that? How did that work?
Well, no, many years ago, I have a friend who was the curator at the National Museum of American History for many years, and he's retired. And I had seen him at a conference, a jazz conference in New York, and we were talking about Oscar's legacy, and I said, I would love to make a donation to the Smithsonian somehow, if that's possible. So he said, oh, I think that's a great idea. The Smithsonian has outfits and other memorabilia from Ella Fitzgerald. They have the entire Duke Ellington library, like everything of Duke Ellington's, and wow. And many others. Dizzy Gillespie's trumpet, so many other artifacts pertaining to jazz, and along with so many other parts of American history. But because of the culture of it, it just seemed so important. So my friend introduced me to the current curator, a man named Theo Gonzalez, who is just delightful. And we talked about it, and they were very eager to acquire something. But it's a long process, and they have to make sure that they will have proper way to conserve the article, to take care of it, and then to display it. And Theo came here and visited me at our home, looked at so many things, and then we discussed what they might take, and we settled on the tuxedo. And at the same time, I introduced him to Edward and Dianca Gaydel so that they could decide the gift of the portrait of Oscar.
And since when all of that display has been available to the general public?
The donation ceremony was on April 30th, International Jazz Day.
This
in Washington.
Year?
So I'm not sure. This year, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so it's very recent.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm sure recent. That was such a thrill, and what an emotional moment for you all.
It was both of those. It was definitely a thrill, and it was extremely emotional and moving. And the people at the Smithsonian are so wonderful and warm and kind and enthusiastic, and they were very happy to have this addition to their collection and to have a beautiful ceremony to accept it. It was really, really lovely.
I can completely imagine that these are these type of people who works at those organizations. They're definitely people who appreciate culture, in the deepest levels, and well, having the part of the legacy and wardrobe and so on of a legend like Oscar Peterson that's like beyond honor. And I have a question for you, talking about these exhibitions, and I know because I visited here, obviously in Canada, being also a Canadian and musician, but tell our fellow Canadians, the people who are here, and they would like to know more about Oscar and where they can go, like in Ottawa, in Montreal, where they can go to actually see stuff that belonged to Oscar and celebrate his life and music.
Well, you can't actually go to Ottawa and see things that belonged to Oscar. However, you can go to Ottawa and go to the National Arts Center and see the statue of Oscar that sits
Correct.
on the corner of Albert and Elgin Streets. And you can sit next to him on the piano bench and have a chat and take photos. There's music playing there 24 hours a day. It's really lovely. And that statue was sculpted by Ruth Abernethy and unveiled by Queen Elizabeth in 2010. So that, I think, is wonderful. There are musical compositions. There are a lot of what we would call his papers, kind of at the National Library and Archives. And some of those can be accessed for research through the National Library. But that has to all be done by request. You can't actually tour the archives. I will also say that there is currently an exhibit of memorabilia, including many of Oscar's synthesizers that he used for composing from his home studio, on exhibit at the National Music Center in Calgary. And that exhibit, I'm not sure when it opened last summer, and I'm not sure how much longer it's going to go, but it's still on for a little while. So for anyone who's in Calgary or making a trip to Calgary, go to the National Music Center. And it's a beautiful place to begin with. The building is stunning. And inside they have a lot of memorabilia and artifacts. They also have live performances and things like that. But you can see a big exhibit about Oscar there.
It's funny that you're mentioning that beautiful statue of Oscar in Ottawa, because that's one of the first, when my daughter, she was born, that's one of the first trips she took in Canada was to go to Ottawa. So she has this beautiful picture in her stroller next to Oscar in that beautiful place. So yeah, and then obviously with being back to Ottawa after that, and when we passed, was like, it's one of the best musicians, jazz players in the world. But she's very familiar. She loves it as well. But it's funny because you're telling me that, and that reminds me of all of that, and the significance for us, especially for me, to have my daughter as a baby to take a picture beside that statue. And I wanted to ask you something with regards, because I would like to remind my audience that the release for this World Tour collection is on the day of the show, Friday, August 28th. And it's going to be available, Kelly, worldwide. How it's going to work is going to be available in certain parts of the world before. How is the release working in that way?
The recording is available for pre-order up until Friday. And so, but then it's available everywhere starting on Friday through our website, oscarpeterson.com. There's a store there, through Mac Avenue. I would assume there will be some on Amazon. Okay. And local record stores. Go to record stores. Go to record stores like Cops Records in Toronto or Taz
Correct.
Records in Halifax. Go to record stores and look for the recordings there. It's so much fun to be in a store. Oh, and the recording comes out as the limited edition 6 LP box set, and that includes the 48-page hardcover book. We also have, it's a 4 CD set with a 20-page booklet in it. So wow. Both formats.
So part of the, you would say a lot of the content that is on the page, you were able to put it somehow also in the booklet for the CD?
No, the booklet for the CD does not include the photos and the poems and all of Oscar's words. The booklet there, that is really exclusive for the box set, that book.
Yeah,
the booklet
for the LP,
though, includes, for the LP, yes. The booklet includes my notes, our daughter Celine's notes, and some photos, and it includes testimonials from dear friends and colleagues of Oscar's as well.
So yeah, definitely, I would
but
say.
But it's all the same music. I mean, it's all,
of course, everything is complete.
Both.
Yeah. But I mean, for people who are collectors, people who would like to have all the graphic work. That it was a beautiful thing that you guys did. It's definitely worth it to get the vinyl box set, because I could see it, and it's astonishing. The pictures, the sleeves for the actual vinyls are amazing on those sepia tones, colors. It was absolutely beautiful. And so you think that probably because this show, I'm happy to say this, a lot of different parts of the world, they watch this show. And I wanted, so for people who are jazz heads around the world who might be seeing this, do you think there's going to be available, for example, if they go into Amazon in wherever they live, they might have a way to get a hold of one of this record?
I think they should, yes. The other recordings have been available through Amazon. I would think this one will too. But if they have any trouble, they can go through our website, oscarpeterson.com, and there's a store online there. But also, people in other parts of the world could check. There are record stores in other parts of the world as well. So check your record stores and see, because it's always nice to support those businesses.
Of course, there's
I know
nothing like a
Amazon
record
makes it
store
easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it easy, but yeah, just as you said, that's so important. We need to support, especially now these times, our local businesses, Canadian stores, and we're lucky. And in this country, people have so much appreciation for culture, for music, and to have these places that are like niche places where you can find like the rarities, records that are not available anywhere else. So it's definitely worth it to go to those places and check it out. But especially, as you said, in Cops Records in Toronto, for the people who are in the GTA, to go there. Apart from Cops Records, there's other places for example, in Ontario or other parts of Canada where people can actually just, if they want to go and have the experience of going to the store and shuffling through the records and finding this one, they can find this new release there.
I would think so. Well, I know there's a store in Ottawa, the Record Center in Ottawa will have the recording. They had a listening party the same day we had the one at Cops.
Oh,
and
that's great. Yeah.
So, and I'm not familiar with all the record stores, and it really depends on which stores want to carry this recording and what they would order. So I would say check with the store and see, but ask the stores. And it is fun to go into the store and see what they have, and often I discover things that I didn't know about or that I haven't seen before, and that I think, oh, I think I'll get that too.
Well, that's fantastic. And Kelly, I know that you told me you have like around like 30 minutes available. We'll be a little bit over that, but
That's okay.
I don't want to finalize this is very special interview without you telling the audience a little bit about the importance of your husband's music legacy, and any final message that you would like our audience to receive from you.
That's a big thing. Well, I've always believed, for all the time that I have known Oscar, that his music would outlive us all, that people 100 years from now will be celebrating his 200th birthday and still listening to his music. The other parts of his legacy that I think are equally important are his passion, his dedication to always being the best. Well, always doing his best, I should say. It not being the best, just doing his best, pouring his heart into everything he did, giving 100%, and also his tremendous wish for human dignity and human rights, his work as a staunch supporter of civil rights, and speaking up for inequities that he saw, and people who were not treated fairly. So I think that is also another very important part of his legacy that people don't know as much, perhaps. But Hymn to Freedom kind of says it all. And that's such an important piece of music. And he believed that the world was a beautiful place and that people were good, and he wanted to share all of that, and he wanted to bring joy to people. And I think that's a wonderful legacy.
It is indeed. And I want to thank you again for this opportunity, for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm happy because these interviews, they stay on, they stay available forever, I would say. And so I'm very happy because people are going to be able to go back, and if they just want to rewatch this interview, enjoy it, and take information from this interview, they're going to be able to do so. For me, that's a very important thing. It's part of my mission statement when it comes to music, and always waving the flag of the Canadian artists and Canadian legends. It's incredible people that we have in this country. I want to thank you again, Kelly, for your time, for your kindness. I'm so happy that I was able to meet you a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, we will stay in contact, as we were just talking about it off the air. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Obviously, after we finish this interview, I'm going to talk to the audience, and we're going to play some music from this record that you were so kind to send me through your publicist, and I really appreciate it. And thank you again.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. I'm so glad we met, and this has been a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. And of course, we're gonna keep in touch, because any other future releases or promotions that you might have for Oscar, this is your house. This program, this show is all yours. And please, you are welcome as many times as you want.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thanks for your time again. Para la audiencia de Alta Fidelidad, de verdad que esto es un verdadero placer haber tenido a Kelly Peterson en nuestro show. De verdad que estamos muy contentos. Una entrevista de lujo para la historia. Y por supuesto, bueno, vamos a hacer un pequeño corte musical. Les voy a hablar un poquito más, les voy a recordar sobre este lanzamiento que va a ser, que la fecha oficial es este viernes 28 de agosto. Vamos a colocar un poquitico de música, y lo que vamos a colocar, por supuesto, que es del maestro Oscar Peterson, y está contenido en este box. Es una pieza bellísima, muy alegre, que se llama Reunion Blues. Vamos a escuchar esta pieza y volvemos para cerrar el programa y hablar un poquitico, darles algo de noticias de música. Vamos con música y ya volvemos. Sí, señor, estamos de regreso con Alta Fidelidad después de escuchar esta música maravillosa de Oscar Peterson, que está incluida esta pieza en este nuevo box set, de esta compilación que va a ser lanzada hoy, viernes 28 de agosto, a nivel mundial. Y no se la deben perder. Esto es una maravilla para los que sean amantes del jazz. De verdad que, como yo les dije, lo comenté durante la entrevista con la señora Kelly Peterson, a quien agradezco nuevamente su participación y su tiempo. Yo tuve la oportunidad de ver ese box, de verdad que absolutamente espectacular. Es una pieza de colección digna de tener en la discoteca de cualquier amante del jazz y de la buena música. Bueno, un programa, como les comentaba, muy especial. Me hace que honor de tener a quien fuese la esposa, es la esposa del señor Oscar Peterson, Kelly Peterson, dándonos todos esos detalles sobre este lanzamiento, sobre su labor como ser la persona que tiene la custodia del trabajo de Oscar Peterson, de sus instrumentos, de su música, de sus pentagramas musicales, de todo lo que lanzó, de su historia, de la poesía que escribió, sus fotografías, porque el señor Oscar Peterson no solo era un músico maravilloso, también era un amante de la fotografía, amante de la pesca, amante de escribir poesía. Y bueno, todas estas informaciones están en ese libro espectacular de 47 páginas que viene con el box set del vinil. Es muy importante recordar que el que tiene la información más completa es el box set del vinil, que está siendo lanzado hoy a nivel mundial. Y bueno, por supuesto que en este programa ustedes saben que nosotros hablamos de noticias y hablamos de la música. Y bueno, con esta entrevista que acabamos de tener, todavía tenemos unos minutos disponibles para dar unas noticias de música que competen, por supuesto, al mercado canadiense. Y nos llega una noticia que dice que la Asociación de Música Country de Canadá, mejor conocida como la CCMA, ha revelado oficialmente la segunda ola de actuaciones confirmadas para la gala número 44 de sus premios, la fiesta anual más importante del género en el país, los premios CCMA. Estos premios se llevarán a cabo el próximo 19 de septiembre en el Sasktel Center de Saskatoon, aquí por supuesto en Canadá. El anuncio confirma las presentaciones en vivo de destacadas figuras de la industria, entre ellas el trío High Valley, nominados a Grupo del Año, la aclamada banda de Outfall, The Strombellas, que sin duda están dando mucho de qué hablar, quienes superan los 1,000 millones de reproducciones globales en los servicios de streaming, el cantautor Nate Haller y la icónica Tenille Townes, primera mujer en la historia de las listas canadienses en lograr 2 sencillos número 1 consecutivos. Así que bueno, no es poca cosa. La industria del country vive un momento dorado de facturación e impacto comercial en Canadá, con 197 nominados repartidos entre 72 artistas y profesionales del sector. El evento servirá también para dinamizar la economía del turismo cultural en la provincia de Saskatchewan. La gala se transmitirá en exclusiva a nivel nacional a través de la señal de la cadena CTV News, prometiendo ser una de las transmisiones televisivas de mayor audiencia del año en la industria del espectáculo canadiense. Bueno, seguimos con noticias también, porque como saben, bueno, aquí las olas de conciertos no paran el año, pero especialmente en la época de verano es una absoluta locura que la gente no se da abasto. Sucede y va a suceder este fin de semana. Yo por lo menos, viene mi banda preferida que toca sábado y domingo, que es Iron Maiden, pero el domingo a mí me hubiese encantado también a ver a Toto, porque Toto va a tocar aquí este domingo, pero eso colida con el segundo show de Maiden. O sea, la gente aquí no se da abasto. ¿Y por qué estamos hablando de eso? Bueno, porque la gira de estadios de AC/DC, que también viene, por supuesto, para Canadá el septiembre 16, impulsa la economía del merchandising con pop-ups masivos en Canadá. ¿Cómo funciona esto? Bueno, la legendaria banda de rock AC/DC ha puesto en marcha una innovadora estrategia de merchandising e interacción comercial con sus fanáticos a lo largo de su gira canadiense Power Up. en cada ciudad donde se presentan, incluyendo paradas masivas en Edmonton, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto y Winnipeg. La agrupación está instalando tiendas pop-up temáticas y exclusivas en recintos culturales icónicos. Esta iniciativa trasciende la tradicional venta de productos en las puertas de los estadios, espacios históricos como la mítica sala de Faux Fonds Electrics en Montreal, el Commodore Ballroom en Vancouver y la cervecería Steam Whistle en Toronto están siendo transformados en centros de experiencia inmersiva. En estos puntos los fanáticos pueden acceder a mercancía de edición limitada, activaciones fotográficas, gastronomía temática y sorteos de guitarras autografiadas. Imagínense. Analistas del sector destacan que el modelo de tienda pop-up temporal se ha convertido en una fuente de ingresos crucial y altamente rentable para las giras de estadios en la era post-pandemia. La estrategia permite capitalizar la presencia de la banda en la ciudad durante días previos al concierto, descentralizar las colas en los estadios y generar alianzas comerciales muy sólidas con recintos e industrias locales, un modelo de negocio sobre ruedas que demuestra el vigentísimo poder de convocatoria que tiene el legendario género del rock. Y no se limita esto a bandas como AC/DC, por supuesto. Eso también se está trasladando a bandas del calibre de Iron Maiden, donde vemos que van a tener presentaciones, por supuesto este fin de semana, y también van a tener unas cosas temáticas. Por ejemplo, aquí se llama The Pint, está en todo cerca del base, y ahí va, por ejemplo, va a haber comida y hay cosas, hasta los menús son alegóricos a las bandas. En este caso Iron Maiden, va a estar las cervezas de Iron Maiden, entiendo que también van a tener los vinos de Iron Maiden, las hamburguesas, el menú se va a transformar para también tener nombres temáticos alusivos a la banda. Entonces la hamburguesa de Eddie o la cerveza Fear of the Dark, todo lo que sea. Como siempre lo hablamos en este programa, en la industria de la música, esto es un gran negocio, donde, como siempre le decimos, la palabra chiquita es music y la grande es business. De eso se trata. Y bueno, esto lo estamos viendo. Veo que nos quedan unos pocos segundos de programa. Les quiero reiterar agradecimientos a todos los que están conectados, a la audiencia que es consecuente cada viernes con nosotros. Por supuesto, pueden seguirnos en showaltafidelidad@gmail.com, mi Instagram personal, también Twitter, que es @José Ocando, por supuesto en los canales de la emisora. Quiero agradecer en la parte técnica a nuestro compañero de la estación, Daniel Gutiérrez, quien nos ha asistido para que este programa pueda llegar para ustedes, hacer las conexiones y todo. Bueno, a veces ciertas cositas que hay, sea por internet, porque tenemos el invitado remoto, pero bueno, siempre se logra. Lo importante es que se logra llevar el programa para ustedes. Quiero darles las gracias y nos reencontramos en 2 semanas. Muchísimas gracias a todos.